Good afternoon and welcome to another inReach Field Experience webinar. Today we'll be talking about inReach core features. Before we get started, my name is Chip Noble. I'm a product manager here at Garmin. I'm an avid outdoorsman, and for today I'll be your trusted guide as we explore all of the planning, exploring, and sharing features that are available with our inReach system. This picture is an oldie. This is back in 2010 when I actually went on one of my first big adventures with satellite communication. I thought that was appropriate because today we're going to talk about the core features of the inReach system. And I have really been using the planning and the exploring and sharing features of inReach and the Explore website and Explore app for a long time. And so we're excited to talk about these core features around account management, configuring the system, using the sharing tools like MAPSHARE and the planning with waypoints and routes, and how to message and track and send for weather forecasts, that sort of thing with the device. But I'm really pleased because I spent some time prior to this presentation putting together a series of special tips, ways that I have used the system, some features that I really enjoy, and around each of these aspects of the ecosystem. And I want to make sure that everyone listening is exposed to those features and can use them for your own adventure. So really, hopefully, you'll find that the tips are beneficial. And so we'll move through those, and then obviously we'll have some time at the end for questions. And just one note that we'd say at the beginning of each of our webinars, the PDF for this slide deck is available in the handout section of the webinar. So don't feel like you have to take notes. You can download this PDF and have it with you for use later. So looking at core features, I talked quickly about kind of the plan for our presentation. And then there's this note here at the bottom that I wanted to touch on. Remember that the inReach system does utilize the Iridium satellite network, and that requires an active satellite subscription to take advantage of those features. In addition, there are some countries where satellite communicators are not allowed. So remember, as the device user, it's your responsibility to check and make sure what are the rules in the area where you plan to go. We don't want anyone to get in trouble for having a satellite communication device with them. So check that out before you go on your next big adventure. So let's dive right in. Want to start by talking about the Explore website. And I know most everyone on this call is already an inReach owner, and that's great. And so that means you're familiar with explore.garmin.com as a website, and that being the place where you go to manage your information, your account information. And you see here in this slide, this is where you put in your phone numbers and your addresses and everything you need for billing. Your emergency contacts are entered here as well. It's also where you see your links for device management, that sort of thing. So managing the account in the Explore site, managing the device, I mentioned that. You can come here to manage the device. You can also manage your subscription. You can change your plans, do all of this in the Explore site. If you wanted to change, one of the things that we're pleased is the different levels of plans, whether you wanted to get in at a safety plan level or move throughout the seasons. If you know you have a special bucket list event coming up, you could upgrade into the expedition plan. Come here in the Explore website, go to plans and devices and subscription, and you can move up, go on your special adventure, and when that's over, you can move back down without any additional fees, and so use the website to manage those plans. You can also find information about how to sync your device. This link here shows that the different devices use different approaches. The inReach Explorer Plus, the SE Plus, those use the Sync app, which is a desktop app that you use a micro USB cable to connect your device, sync waypoints, tracks, routes, presets, quick text that way. If you have one of the newer devices, the inReach Mini, the inReach, the GPS Map 66i, you would use the app, the Explore app, or the EARTHMATE app to sync your data. Instructions for how to do syncing available here on the Explore site. So a tip, one of the questions that people ask us, what happens if I have a new device? Can I transfer my service from my previous device and move that forward into the new device? So our first tip today is how to do that. You see here, you go to the Plans and Devices tab, and you select Add inReach Device. And when you've made that selection, you just let the site know that you want to switch rather than adding. You want to switch your service. And you'll see a page where it allows you to specify the device you're switching from and put in the information for the device you're switching to. So how to switch your plan. From there, let's talk a little bit about messages. Many of our blogs, many of our webinars, we've talked about the different types of messages that you can send. We're going to show how to do that and give a couple of tips here, but there are preset messages and there are quick text messages, and I show them both at the same time to talk about the differences. A preset message is something you create ahead of time and you specify who is going to receive that message. And the thing that's special about them is you can send as many as you want. There are unlimited presets in all of the different plans for inReach. It does have to be created ahead of time and you can't change them in the field, but send as many as you want. Very, very helpful. A quick text, you also create them ahead of time. You can have up to 20 and think of them just as in the title, a quick text. It's something that it allows you to quickly type a response to somebody or create a new message to someone using that pre-canned message. It does cost the same as a regular message. It's really just to make it faster for you to type. And I'll show you an example of how I use it in a second. And then an important note here, remember, it's not just presets and quick text, there are also custom messages. Those are my favorite because I like to be expressive when I'm hiking and share all the details of what I'm experiencing. And so custom messages are where you would go for that. So let's look at how to create the preset messages. You go to the messages section of the Explore website. And if you want to edit a preset, you just choose the first one, you click on edit, and there you can change what the message is, as well as adding in who the recipients are. Make sure to put all of the necessary recipients in there. I put close friends and family if it's I'm checking in, everything's okay. And that will be saved and then synced down onto your device so you have it when you get into the field. If you want to change the quick text message, same idea. You choose either edit or add, and again, you can have up to 20 quick text messages. And then you just type in the message that you would like to have. We give you, I think it's 10 that we preload, and so we thought of a lot of them based on how people use the system, but you may have a custom message you want to add in. So let's look, here's my tip for everyone. You can create a personalized preset or quick text message and share that with people while you're adventuring. 2 examples. 1, I'm starting my trip. Send me a message if you get a chance. I like to send this to people just to remind them. It is a 2-way system. They can reply to me and I can get that message, and then we can have a little chat back and forth. I can make them feel like they're part of my adventure. Maybe it's a particularly difficult activity and I get some support from hearing from them. The other message that I like to have is a quick text message, and I use this if I receive a message from someone and perhaps I'm struggling up a particularly steep climb on a hike, and I don't really want to stop and reply, but I also don't want them to worry that something's happened and I'm not able to receive their message. So I send this. I got your message. Thanks. I'm busy right now, but I'll reply as soon as I have a minute. This is really just for my mom, so she doesn't worry that I've fallen off a mountain or anything crazy. But a couple of examples: be creative, use your presets and quick text, and remember that your presets are unlimited, so take advantage of those. From here, we'll take a look at contacts. This is important because, as you know, the GPS Map 66i, the inReach Explorer Plus, those are great devices for standalone use. You don't necessarily need to bring your phone with you. My phone has all my contacts. I certainly don't have any phone numbers memorized anymore. So I can put those contacts onto my inReach device and have them with me when I go into the field. So the steps for that are pretty straightforward. You click on contacts, you click add, put in the information, first name, last name, and then one of these fields. I say one, and this is a tip that I didn't write up for you, but remember that each entry for a contact becomes an entry in your contact list on the device. So for example, I know my wife will only reply to an SMS message. She doesn't check her email that often. So I don't put her email address in here, I just put her phone number, so that when I go to send a message to someone, I don't have to scroll through an email, an SMS, and an inReach address for each person. I have their primary contact. It's a small tip, but it might save you from having to scroll through a very large list if you only have the most important contacts, the contact you'll actually use. And then the note here at the bottom is just pointing out these are for casual messaging contacts. These are not your emergency contacts. Those are set up in a different section on the Explore site where we first looked at the account management. So just keep those separate in your mind. From here, let's look at MAPSHARE. Hopefully all of you are using MAPSHARE. This is an important feature of the inReach ecosystem. This is where your friends and family will go to see you while you're hiking. They'll see your breadcrumb trail appear here. Any message that you choose to send to your MAPSHARE page particularly will show up here. Think of it like social media, where you could send a message to Facebook. You can send a message to MAPSHARE and we would see a little message bubble on the map at the location where you had, a great scenic overlook or a waterfall that you sat next to when you ate lunch. You can put a little message, send it to MAPSHARE. It's also where you can go to put your planning. You see a collection visible here. You could have the route and the waypoints that you're planning to follow so that when someone comes to the website, they can see all of that. Important to configure things. So let's look, you go to social. First, make sure that MAPSHARE is enabled. If you haven't turned it on, people won't be able to see it. That's an important first step. And then make sure to update your URL. I use a custom URL for a lot of my different activities. Another good tip there. So for example, if it's the Trek Across Maine and we're doing our bike ride, I'll change mine to share.garmin.com/trek 2020 or something like that. Or if I'm just sharing my link with friends, I might make, where's Chip, something fun. And the key there is something you can remember, so that if you forgot to email it around to people, you could just tell them, my MAPSHARE is share.garmin.com/where's Chip. And so making it something you can remember is very helpful. There are also settings that can be configured for your MAPSHARE, everything from putting a password on it if you want to make sure that it's restricted to only people in your trusted circle. You can set controls over what's visible on the site. I mentioned the collections. You can choose to turn on and off particular collections on your MAPSHARE site. I have a tip coming up in a second about how you can even customize the date range so that you only show people what's coming up for your adventures. A lot of important controls to look at for MAPSHARE before you head out. Then obviously, once you've finished setting everything up, you can then share your MAPSHARE link with people. You either do this by sending an email from your computer, or you can send a MAPSHARE link to people from your device in the field. Both work very well. So here's the tip I mentioned, and we'll go quickly through this, but if you wanted to hide older data, so imagine you have an entire summer's worth of activity, but a special trip is coming up. You don't want people to be distracted by your other activities. You want them to just focus on what you're doing. To do that, select the date field in the hide older MAPSHARE tracking data and specify a date that is just before your next big adventure. We're going to go canoeing this weekend. I'm going to choose Friday, the 22nd. Don't show any data on MAPSHARE that's older than that. That guarantees they only see my upcoming track line. Then save your changes. Last tip on MAPSHARE, remember that unless you initiate the conversation with someone by sending them a message, MAPSHARE is the only way that they can initiate a conversation with you. So make sure you send the MAPSHARE link and make sure you've enabled that capability by going to MAPSHARE settings and putting a check into the allow map viewers to send you a message. Once you've done that, save your changes and you'll be all set with MAPSHARE. And remember to send your link to other people so that they know how to get to your website. So then for the planning piece, there are some things we've talked about this in other webinars, but the ability to create waypoints, to create routes, we'll look at all of those. And just to move kind of quickly through this, to create a waypoint, you see the waypoint on the map tab, you select the waypoint tool, and then you select the location on the map where you want to drop that waypoint. And then you can edit the waypoint details like the name and the symbol. And when you're finished, you choose the green check mark to save it. That will create the waypoint and put it into your library. From here, very similar process for routes. You want to create a route, you choose the map tab and then the route tool, and then you click on the start location. So you see in this climb up to the top of Mount Madison, you start at the car and you tap on any of the trail turns that you want to create detail for with your route. Once you've added in all the additional points, double click that last point to complete the route, give it a name, specify a color, and then click the green name, there you go, and then click the green check mark to save that route. This is a newer feature for folks, one that I really like because I like to keep my data organized. I don't like a list of 100 waypoints. I would rather see a collection of waypoints and routes for specific activities. We talk a lot about some of the big climbs. My bucket list, Mount Rainier hike, you'll see screens pop up in demos for those. I can take the waypoints and the routes for that hike and I can put it into one collection called Mount Rainier. It's easy to fly to it, to review it. It's easy to sync it down to a device. Quickly on how to do that, you go into the collection section, you click the plus symbol to create a new collection. You put in a name for the collection. You can choose manually the waypoints and routes that you want in that collection, and then you can click next. You can even specify which devices the collection will be synced onto. A tip, this is one of my favorite tips around collection creation. The ability to zoom the map, and so to create a collection quickly, you can center the map over the area where all of your data is. And then from there, this button down on the bottom, select all on map. This is actually how I created all of my collections because I had years worth of data that I had built up. And all I did was fly to Mount Langley, where all the data was for that hike, centered on it, and then said select all on map, and it created the collection for me. It's very powerful. I very quickly created collections to organize all my data. So keep an eye on that tip. I think you'll find it useful. From here, let's talk about the apps, the Garmin Explore and EARTHMATE apps. And these are useful. These are companion apps for your inReach devices. And you can see the breakdown, the 66i, 86i for the Explore app and the rest of them for the EARTHMATE app. This allows you to send messages, start and stop tracking, and even declare an SOS, so messaging, tracking, and SOS. It also gives you access to topographic aerial imagery, lots of different maps that you can take with you. So very powerful. Sorry, and I got ahead of myself. The app features, so you can download those maps onto the device. Again, you don't need to have cell phone coverage. These are cached on the device. Just make sure you download them before you get into the backcountry. You can start and stop tracking. Great for sending those messages up to your MAPSHARE so people can see your breadcrumb trail. It also records the data on the device and onto your the map and Explore so you can see, you get your breadcrumb trail. You can also navigate along a route that you planned ahead of time or to different levels between the two products. You can create new routes and both of them allow you to create waypoints. Send and receive messages, use the address book from your phone. So if you didn't plan the collection, didn't plan the contact ahead of time, you can use the address book from your mobile phone. And you can also get weather reports, and hopefully you don't need it, but if you do, you can trigger and cancel an SOS message. So a couple of tips around the apps that I wanted to share with people. For me, the Explore app and the EARTHMATE app, they're all about the map content, and there's a lot of very useful map types. My favorites, the topographic map and the aerial imagery, and this hybrid view that allows you to use them both at the same time. I'm not sure if you've all had a chance to try this, but here's a aerial image of the summit of Mount Rainier, and next to it is the topographic data. And if you go into map settings and you choose hybrid map, you can actually see them overlaid where we take the land cover out of the topographic map and we allow the aerial imagery to show through it. But you get the points and lines, so the contours and the place names for the topographic data overlaid on top of this beautiful aerial imagery. And it's just a very powerful way to visualize what you're doing for your adventure. So check out a hybrid map if you haven't seen that already. Another feature, and this one is very exciting, this is for the Explore app and it's brand new and the team worked really hard on this and we just released it, I want to say a week or two ago, the ability to import a GPX file. So this is now in there. This was the #1 feature that everyone was asking for around that planning capability of the system. They wanted to be able to bring GPX data in from third-party sources. So crowdsourced data on a hiking website or a mountain biking website, or data that you exported from your other hiking apps. And so the way to do this, you go to the map page and you can see I already started it, but the plus sign in the upper corner, you click that and you see the option to import a GPX file. From there, you can browse the files that you've downloaded to your phone as one approach. And I here have a couple of examples. I choose one and it imports it and it creates a collection inside my library. And then once I go and look at that collection, you can see all of the point data or line data that was in that file. And what I really like is the teamwork to honor the symbol and the style of the data that was in the GPX file. So here you see my trailhead symbols and my mountain symbols and my water symbols. I didn't have to do any editing, just brought that in. You can also import a GPX file if it was emailed to you or if someone texted you the file. You don't have to download it from a website. And that works very well. You just, when you receive the email, you tap on the file and the phones, you have your little action button in the bottom corner that allows you to print the file or a list of different things. One of those options will be to open it using a particular app, and you just specify the Explore app and it will open it and execute that import step. From here, just wanted to point out that the apps, the companion apps, Explore and EARTHMATE, are designed obviously to pair with an inReach device. There are instructions for how to do this pairing step on each of the apps, and they are very early in the process. You accept the license agreement, you log in, and we take you through the pairing process. Click on devices to start pairing with an inReach device in Explore, or you can even, before logging in, pair with your device in the EARTHMATE app. Once you've paired, the important thing, and I work closely with our product support team, and they wanted to make sure, because this is one of the biggest weekends coming up for people getting outdoors, make sure that you sync your device before you go. That will take any planning, any changes to your account information. It will bring it into the Explore or EARTHMATE app. It will also put it onto your inReach device. That's because syncing occurs automatically. If you have your device turned on and your app on your phone open, they connect automatically and sync that data, so you don't have to worry about it. Just make sure that you've successfully completed the syncing process. And then a note here quickly from the EARTHMATE app, you can tell if you're connected by going to the My inReach section from the menu, and from the Explore app, you go to Devices, and that shows if you're connected and synced. Great, so now we're going to look at the devices themselves, at some features that are most important. That's messaging, tracking, declaring an SOS, and we'll look and find a couple of tips in here as we go. So those preset messages that we created on the Explore website, wanted to show you how to send those from the device. And you see the Explorer Plus is at the top, the Mini in the middle, and the 66i at the bottom for these next few slides. So the first thing you do is you go to the preset messages, you select the preset that you want to send, and then you hit send. And it's really that simple, and we made it simple so that you could use it for something like, I'm leaving the marina on my boat. Hit it every morning before you go out. And then when you come back, I'm returning. And you send that every evening when you come in. And then those people that are receiving that preset just get it. We want it to be convenient. Do remember, while the preset messages are free to send, anyone that receives it and replies to you, that will cost you a message. I do have some friends using the system who tell everyone, look, I'm going to send presets, but I don't really need you to reply. That helps them stay in the safety plan. So preset messages, that's how you send them. A tip for everyone, this is something that I do sometimes for activities, and I like to share it with people because you can actually use a preset message to send to someone's inReach device. And what's cool about that is it allows you to share your location with them. And when they receive it, if they send a preset message back to you, you'll get their location, and it's really fast and convenient. And so the steps there, you create a preset message one, and you put in the address for anyone that has an inReach device. So imagine that you are, you're going out on a snowmobile trip or a bird hunt or something like that. You could have your friends create a similar I'm checking in preset message and send that to your inReach device. And they just have to send preset message one, and everybody gets an update of their current location. And you can use that to keep track of where everyone is. So then when I send that message, you see the example, preset one, I hit send, and then the person who sent it receives it, and that little symbol next to that message shows that it has location information with it. When they receive it, they can view the details, and then they can even create a route to it. So if I get separated, but people are sending those check-in messages, I can find someone and navigate to them. So just an interesting additional way to use preset messages. And then a note for anyone who doesn't know how to find their inReach address, because it is unique depending on your device and how many other people of similar name created an account. Go to the contacts page on the Mini or the GPS Map 66i, and you'll see your contact with your inReach address. Or if you have one of the older devices, the SE Explorer, SE Plus, Explorer Plus, go to the About This Device page, and you'll also see your inReach address. From there, how to use the quick text message. We saw how to create them on the website. To send a quick text, you go to Messages. You can either reply to someone or send a new message, specify the contact that you want to receive it, or again, pick a reply. And then you choose from your quick text list, and it's really that simple. You see the lightning bolt is the symbol for the inReach Explorer Plus. The other devices call it out by name. Do you want to type a message or send a quick text? And then you hit send. And remember that a quick text counts towards your message total. Custom messages, these are my favorite. You get to type in the details of what you're experiencing, not just pick something that you planned ahead of time. Go to messages, you select new messages, again, specify the recipient or you're replying to someone, and you type your message. And you see in each of these screens the progression from the messages new and the to field, and then start typing. And these count towards your totals. The tip that I wanted to share around messaging, hopefully you've all discovered the keyboard shortcuts. Obviously a buttoned interface for an inReach device or a handheld device can be a little bit slower than your phone with a touchscreen, but they certainly are rugged devices that can handle any environment. So they have their benefits. And to try and help you with the speed of text entry, we've created keyboard shortcuts. For example, the inReach Explorer Plus has shortcuts listed in the header bar, the lightning bolt to select the suggested word. I typed BR and it's a D mean bring, and yes, that's what I was trying to type. It also has the minus for back, the plus for space, and the menu is the shift option. The Mini is a little more challenging because it has a lot fewer buttons to choose from. But as you type with the Mini, you use that vertical scrolling letter number selector, and then the suggestions appear to the left. And if you press and hold the OK button, it will jump the highlight into the selection list, and you can pick the auto-completed word. You can also scroll up, and you see the space symbol. You can scroll up above that and get to a couple of others. Space, backspace, and done. The 66i has options with the buttons. You can use find for the suggested word, and they're listed here, marked to switch keyboards, page, and plus or minus. So definitely learn the keyboard shortcuts for the device you're using. From here, we'll look at tracking. Very straightforward. To start and stop tracking, you go to the tracking menu on the device and you hit start tracking and stop. And I've got a tip for people. I'm not sure if any of you have been out on a hike where you've gotten partway down the trail and realized you forgot to start tracking. The tip for you, and I use this, I turn on the auto track option so that when I power on my device, it just automatically starts sending my tracking data. And you can combine this with a Garmin powered mount for folks. Like there is a mount for the GPS Map 66i, there's a mount for the inReach Explorer Plus, and when those devices are mounted, when you turn the key for the ignition, the device will automatically turn on, and then auto track will kick in, and you don't have to worry about forgetting to track ever again. I put the note down at the bottom. Remember that tracking is unlimited when you get into the recreation plan. So if you're in the safety plan, this may not be the feature for you, but might, for anyone in recreation, take a look at it. I think you'll find it's a nice tip. So for navigation, we created our routes in the Explorer website ahead of time, and then you can use those on the device. Go to the route menu, choose the route that you want to follow, and hit navigate. Whoops, and hit navigate. Pretty straightforward, and you see Explorer Plus Mini and 66i how to do that navigation process. I have some tips for you. This is actually a tip about the Explorer app, in case anyone isn't aware. And then also the 66i offers this capability of seeing an elevation profile for your route or your track. And the way to do that is you go into the library, you look at the route that you're interested in. Mine happens to be on the Mount Rainier hike. Choose day 2, and then the button farthest to the left on the second screen that looks like the little mountains, you tap that and you see this elevation profile, and it's wonderful because it shows you the terrain and the grade that you're going to be climbing. Very useful. It's also available in the GPS Map 66i, great handheld GPS device. And with this one, you go into the route planner page and you see the list of your routes. You choose one and you can view an elevation plot, again, to see the graph of the terrain that you'll be covering. So a little tip about navigation and elevations. You can also navigate to a waypoint, very straightforward. You pick the waypoint from the waypoint menu from that list and you choose navigate and you select go. And once you've done that, you see the different approaches for the Explorer Plus, the Mini, and the 66i. Weather forecasts, wanted to talk about this as a core functionality, and there are 3 types of forecasts. The first one is a basic forecast. This will give you, well, really basic and premium give you the same attributes. And I apologize, I don't have them on the top of my head. It's the precipitation, the condition, sunny, cloudy. It will tell you wind speeds and lots of very useful information for land navigation. And then premium gives you the same information just over a longer period of time. So 7-day forecast, I believe it is, for premium. And then a marine forecast gives you attributes that are relevant for the boater, for the mariner, and that is things like wave height and things that help during that planning. So looking at how to create a weather forecast on all of the devices, there's a weather page. You choose the weather page. You can specify, go to the weather menu. You can choose a forecast for your current location, or you can choose a location where you're going. Say you're at a trailhead and you're hiking for 2 days. You can get a weather forecast for your destination to know what might be happening there. And so you then remember you choose that basic, premium, or marine, where basic and premium have the same attributes, but one has longer duration. and marine focuses on the mariner forecast, wave heights and that thing. And then you choose to get the forecast. And then we'll jump to SOS. And before we talk about the flow, we just wanted to cover the benefits of using SOS. And I think we're all familiar that our SOS system is powerful because it uses GEOS. They are our partners for incident management. They have a 24/7 monitoring service. So rather than trying to rely on friends and family to receive that message and be awake when you need help, GEOS has someone there monitoring 24/7. And as we talked about all the features previously about the benefits of two-way messaging, you can send a message declaring your emergency, GEOS will receive it and they can reply to you. And that two-way capability is very powerful in an SOS situation because they can ask for additional details. Is it a medical emergency? Is it an equipment failure? And it helps them dispatch the correct information to local area search and rescue when they come out to help you. Everything that we've talked about with the Iridium, excuse me, the Iridium satellite network takes advantage of their 100% global coverage. That means from the North Pole to the South Pole and the summit of Everest, everything in between, they're covered, and GEOS can monitor and help you there. And they also have the tracking capabilities. Should you be in an emergency, perhaps your boat is drifting, perhaps something has happened and you need to move away from the location where the emergency started, they can track that as it's happening. And then the ability to cancel an SOS if it's no longer needed. So how to trigger an SOS. And an SOS can be triggered from the device. It can also be triggered from the EARTHMATE app or the Explorer app. I didn't dive into the details on how to trigger from the apps. And actually, I meant to mention earlier, we're going to have a more detailed webinar on the apps. So we focused more heavily on devices with this presentation, but we'll get to more detail with the apps in a future webinar. So looking at how to trigger an SOS, first you open the little door on the side. You notice the Explorer Plus, the Mini, and the 66i all have the rubber flap on the side. You pull that to the side, push your finger in on the SOS button, press and hold, and after pressing and holding, the SOS countdown will start. That gives you 20 seconds to cancel if you change your mind. After those 20 seconds, a message is sent to GEOS. Now remember, the benefits of two-way messaging are great, but even if you're unable to reply, search and rescue still comes to your aid. And then you can cancel the SOS using the interface if you no longer need assistance. We have a very detailed webinar on SOS that we did a bit ago, and that's the what happens when you trigger an SOS. We interviewed one of the leaders at GEOS, Search and Rescue, Emily Thompson, and she did a wonderful job explaining the system. So we highly recommend checking out that webinar if you have additional questions. So from here, the last tip that we wanted to talk through, the last set of tips, it really is about practicing with the system before you get out on your trip. I've had, on occasion, contact with people who took the device with them, they got to the trailhead and they forgot that they had suspended their service at the end of the previous season and they forgot to turn it back on. Definitely you want to test your device, you want to practice beforehand. Perhaps you just purchased the inReach device and you forgot to turn on MAPSHARE or something like that. So I always give people a homework assignment when they talk to me about the inReach. I tell them to send a message to a friend or family member, maybe create a waypoint and a route for your neighborhood walking around the park, and send your MAPSHARE to someone and say, hey, I'm testing out a new system, follow along and send me a message, and then take the dog for a walk. If you can track while you're walking the dog and send and receive a couple of messages, you will have covered the core functionality that we just covered in this webinar, and you'll be ready for your backpacking trip or your mountain biking trip, your big adventure. Much better to learn and troubleshoot in your house after a dog walk than to find out that you didn't have a full handle on the system when you got out to, you know, your bucket list mountaineer climb. So let's look quickly though, testing the device. Make sure that that you sync everything ahead of time. We talked about that. You make changes to your account, you want to sync those, make sure they get to the device. Use the test messages. You can use that to check to make sure your subscription is active. The person who got to the trailhead wouldn't have been in that situation if they had used the test message. You get 5 of them a month. And again, make sure that, well, this is after you finish your adventure. You want to sync your device with your app, which then puts it onto the website so you can review what you did while you were in the field. So some important tips before you get out. And so that was the last core feature and tip that we wanted to cover, but there are some additional resources to talk with folks about. The Garmin Explore site we've already covered, that's account management, explore.garmin.com. The support site is a great resource. That is our product support team does a wonderful job with help documents. The manuals from our technical publication team, and marketing has product videos to teach you how to use specific features. And certainly that's where all of our prior webinars are hosted. That's support.garmin.com. And from there, resource is the Garmin blog, and you can go there and read about inReach adventures. And we even are contacted on occasion by customers who have had important or very positive outcomes with their SOS situations, and they want to share those with us. And so we write about them in our blog as well. So here's some resources for people to add on to what we talked about today.